What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, Rise in Freedom. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Is the Biden economy getting you down? Maybe you've thought about getting a second job to make up for the lost wages for inflation. Well, be careful because some employers are out there calling your second job theft. Just wait until they hear about this thing called taxation. I'll have Missouri State Rep Tony Lovasco on at 7:03 to discuss. And I can't believe it. Maybe I just should start being more skeptical in general, but Joe Biden actually did the ice cream meme. The president was asked his thoughts on the economy, and I've got a video of his response while he eats expensive ice cream. And have you checked your 401k lately? Well, here's a tip. Don't. At 7:30 a.m., climate hookers threw tomato soup on a masterpiece of artwork by Vincent van Gogh. Similar copycat acts of retardation have played out as the useful idiots of the climate communist cadre continue to crack on about crap they have little knowledge of. And at 8 a.m., Brad Polumbo joins us fresh off his SmackDown appearance on Dr. Phil. It's boomers versus zoomers. Polumbo took the ignorant lefties on of his generation, and he also took on the boomers as well on the popular daytime talk show, and he absolutely handed them their asses. We'll show the clip, we'll talk to him, and we'll discuss the fallout. And finally, Obama says that cancel culture leftists are a huge buzzkill. Whoa, man. Finally, something the former president says that we can agree with. We'll listen to that clip and we'll talk about it. And finally, sorry about the missed show last week. Some of my equipment got damaged in transit to Florida. I know, that sucked. But I've got some videos and photos to share with you of the amazing trip, and we'll talk about scuba diving at the end. A couple of quick announcements. Today is YouTube Monday. So please join us over on YouTube this morning at AP for Liberty and chat over there. Also, if you're a big Tim Pool fan, then I'll be joining him on his show this Friday. So please make sure to tune in and support. I'll be truly grateful. Now, joining us on the line here, let's bring in Tony Lovasco. Good morning, Tony. Thanks so much for joining him on the program this morning.
Good morning, Austin. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for coming in here, Tony. Do you? I know you're a big fan of actually being able to do the good work for the people, but I mean, I guess it's kind of a good thing sometimes when the legislature is not in session. So, for those of you who are just new to Tony, would you mind just kind of tell us what you do when you're not a state representative here in the Missouri, so we can get a little bit about your professional background?
Well, sure. I sell used computer equipment. Work for a subsidiary of a big leasing firm, and they take equipment that comes back from corporate lease, and they refurbish it, rehab it, that sort of thing, and I sell it. It's actually a lot bigger business than you'd think. There's a lot of equipment that just kind of floating out there that needs homes, and we make sure it stays out of landfill.
Nice. Okay. So, you actually have an honest job when you're not State Representative Tony Lovasco. That's good to hear. I've read that as much as $6,000 has been lost in the average American worker's paycheck due to inflation over the last year, Tony. A lot of people are hurting and saying to themselves, maybe I need to get a second job. Maybe I need to get even a third job. And then I ran into this article that made me think of you because I know you work in tech. And the article title was Tech CEO Calls Overemployment Trend a, quote, new form of theft and deception after they fired two engineers secretly working multiple full-time jobs at once. I sent this article over to you, Tony. What was your thoughts of it?
It's interesting. I think a lot of articles like that, they kind of bait you in with that headline, and then once you actually read the details, it's usually a little bit more nuanced than the headline suggests. And this is a great example. So in this particular case, it sounds like the couple of employees that weren't actually doing their jobs, which is kind of an important piece of information for the viewers to go know here. So I think that most folks would probably articulate that clocking into a job, if you're an hourly worker, and then not actually doing any work, probably not super ethical, right? But different than what a lot of people are doing, which is getting either kind of gig work, by the job pay, salaried work, and then improving their efficiency, figuring out, hey, look, I'm getting paid for 8 hours worth of work. If I can get 8 hours worth of work done before 3 o'clock, I could clock into a different job and do some work after that. And I think that's very different when it comes to ethics, because if you're actually putting that output out that you're, well, they should be fairly pleased with you. And as long as they're and they're not complaining, then I don't see a problem with you switching gears and going. But if you're just flat out not doing the work and pretending like you're showing up, that's a whole different goal.
Yeah, for sure. If you're just tuning into the show this morning, I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco about what's being called overemployment. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Now, Tony, I've been reading a lot of articles that are like this, and certainly this one didn't contain the information about the people just being lazy, but there are a lot of employers who are concerned about the fact that, they've got people who are remote workers and they're going home and they're doing two jobs essentially at once. But I mean, if you're producing the kind of results that each employer wants and getting your job done, I mean, it seems to me that, one, people need these jobs probably in order to keep up with what they're losing for inflation. And two, it's providing them the kind of opportunities, as long as they're, again, not actually, slacking at their job. I mean, it's something that I think should be encouraged, because so many CEOs and employers, they're trying to hire, they're desperate to hire. They complain on one hand about the great resignation, and then on the other hand, they complain when they've got somebody who wants to work for them, but also has a second job. I mean, they can't really have it both ways, can they?
No, and I think one of the things that we're trending away from finally as a society is kind of metrics for measuring performance. It used to be that there was kind of this mantra that, well, if you're at the job, you're supposed to be there working on your employer's work for the entire duration, and anything less is just you're taking advantage. And you had people that were very militaristic about like how long you took for break, how long your lunch was, that sort of thing. And now we've kind of moved past that to a society where it's a lot more common to look at the overall picture. Are you doing the job that you were hired to do well and at a reasonable rate? And more specifically, are you meeting those benchmarks? Are you exceeding those expectations? And if you are, a lot of employers are recognizing that they're going to get more performance out of people if you don't micromanage them and sit there with a day. I would imagine working remotely is going to have to be even more so in that vein, because not only do you not have someone that's a manager that's directly standing over someone to make sure that every moment of the day that they're grinding away, but on top of that, you literally only see their output. You don't see their work process like you would if you've got somebody standing over them in an office. And so it seems to me we ought to be encouraging employees to maximize their efficiency in whatever way works best for them. And ultimately, good management is deciding, well, maybe we got to cut you loose because you're just not producing that output.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Now, the problem, of course, seems to be with how employers measure the productivity of their employees. Quest Fanning over on YouTube says it's often hard to figure a metric for what you want from a worker. I imagine it is. But I mean, Tony, some of this has got to be those middle management workers who are desperate to hold on to their jobs. And if they're not able to sit there and look over an employee's shoulder, then they don't look busy themselves. And a lot of these middle management workers, their job really is just to look busy, because the employees can do the jobs themselves as long as the job is getting done. So, I mean, a big problem with this is that people don't know how to measure productivity.
Well, and I think a lot of that's the fault of the management. Those middle managers, as you say, their primary function is to assign tasks to their workers, so that they've always got more tasks available than perhaps they can reasonably get done in a given day. But that the employee doesn't necessarily have to go looking around for work to do. They have their list of things that they're expected to take care of, and as long as they're meeting that on a reasonable basis, then they should be good. But if you have management that's deciding that, well, they'd like to check out, they'd like to not necessarily do their jobs, and they'd like to pass the buck on to the employee, whether or not they should be working on a particular task. That's when you start getting into these problems, I think, because when you expect that lower level worker to start looking for things to do, well, big surprise, they're not going to. That's not really why you're paying them. That's what the management's function is. And so, that balance there.
Right, if you're just tuning into the show this morning, I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco. You can send us a text this morning at 573-319-1586. Wood Hippie said, text in this morning, says he's watching on the YouTube. Glad you're back. He's got several rants on low boil, FBI, Saudi Arabia, and Democrats. We'll definitely have to hear from Wood Hippie later on in the show. Now, Tony, when it comes to worker productivity, my problem is this, and again, I feel like I'm sounding more and more like a commie as this show has gone on, as I've sort of been freed from my corporate overlords and as I work for myself here. But one of the things that you'll frequently find with socialists is that socialists will analyze a problem correctly, but their solution is always wrong. And we have this increasing productivity for workers. We just keep increasing our productivity. Our productivity just goes up and up and up, but our wages have remained stagnant. Why is that? Why have wages remained stagnant when the average American's workers' productivity has continued to rise over the decades?
Well, I think that's pretty straightforward. I think taking more and more from businesses and shuffling it away to people that are not being productive. I think that anytime you've got government that is adding either a regulatory burden or, quite directly a tax burden, that's going to take away a portion of those profits that businesses will bring in that they can't give back to their workers. And so a lot of times businesses, when they're being squeezed like that, they're going to have to decide, well, are they going to just cut staff entirely, or are they going to just try to squeeze a little bit more productivity out of the people that they've got? You're going to have a imbalance that you wouldn't normally see. Businesses want to reward their workforce is doing well because they retain the good workers. That's how that process works. And I think that's part of why we're seeing so many businesses struggling to keep people nowadays, is that they can't quite afford to pay them or compensate them in other ways, commiserate with some of their competition, because of the fact that there's just so many forces on them externally that just makes it just financially no longer viable to keep up their business model in the way that they could 15 years ago.
And another metric that people point at is the stratification of wealth and corporate profits. I mean, Tony, we have seen corporate profits at record highs in previous years as well. I mean, a lot of that money that they, in theory, could have taken and used to increase wages has just gone to pad the bank accounts of the people at the very top of these corporations. So, I mean, a lot of times, again, you'll hear from Bernie Sanders and you'll see, right-wing populists and others who will rightly point out that a lot of these people who work for these corporations, they're not taking care of their employers and their employees, and their employees need the job. They can't quit their job because they, again, they're getting hit from the government on the inflation side, and they're not getting an increase in salary from their employers, but their employers are certainly paying the guys at the top, Tony. There are a lot of people, a small group of people at the top who are making bank, who make a lot of money, and then the rest of the people at the bottom, it's screw them. And I've seen it happen, Tony. I've seen it happen up close and in person in so many ways. You'll get those managers at the top that do almost nothing, contribute almost nothing to productivity, and they skim all of the money off the top, and they don't pass it down to their workers. I mean, I'm not suggesting that there's some government, rule for this, but when I see these headlines that say, "Oh, overemployment is theft" and all that kind of stuff, it kind of makes me feel, kind of screw you to the bosses. I kind of understand the way that some of these populists feel, don't you?
I can understand that impulse, and I think it's true to a certain extent. But I think there's a huge difference between analyzing what a Fortune 500 company's management structure and compensation might look like versus the average company that most Americans work for. The larger a company is, the more likely that they're going to over exaggerate the rewards that their top management are going to get, because quite frankly, those are very difficult jobs. Maybe they don't necessarily do all that much now, but they did to get there, right? You don't just start out as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right? There's a progression there. But the reality is most Americans don't work for the big mega companies, right? They work for these medium to small businesses. And of course, small business is defined now as like 100 employees or something like that. That's not really that small. But most people that work for those size businesses, I think, would be really shocked to find how little their managers and even the CEOs make. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit more than the average worker. But when you're looking at an employer that has 50, 100 employees, they're doing pretty well for themselves, but they're not fabulously wealthy in most cases. A lot of times their reward is coming later. It's equity in the business. It's what they get when they cash out and they sell that company to the big mega corporation down the line. That's where they're going to get their big payday. It's not usually on their W-2.
Good point. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco about this trend, what they're calling overemployment as theft. I mean, it's been very difficult to make a living in the last couple of years, Tony. I mean, people have been really, set on their back foot when it comes to the pandemic, and the employers are complaining about the Great Resignation, people not going back to work, and a lot of people have said, oh, well, it has to do with government paychecks, which ran out a long time ago, Tony. But another thing, like the Wall Street Journal has been calling it, is, they call it the Great Resignation, and they say it's because people got used to not working during the pandemic, which, yeah, I guess people got used to it. And listen, I don't think that we need to be like Europe in a lot of ways, but I mean, I just got back fresh from a vacation in the Keys, and God, it was just like so refreshing to the soul, Tony. The Europeans actually take more than just 2 weeks of vacation a year. Do I think productivity is good? Great. Yes. Do I think that growing the GDP is good? Great. Yes. But I mean, there's something to be said about like actually living your life, not waiting until you're almost dead before you actually go out there and enjoy your life. I mean, in some ways, I guess I'm envious of Europeans because they actually, they earn their money and they use it and they actually have time off. I mean, it almost seems as if people are just sick to death of being worked to death. Can you sympathize with that?
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that I can speak to personally is there's a great value in flexibility. And that's something that we're finally starting to see the larger corporations start to really kind of understand and recognize, is that when you give employees flexibility, whether it be how they do the job or in a lot of cases when they do the job, you can get a lot more work out of them without necessarily having to squeeze more hours. I can attest for the fact that, when I'm in session in Jefferson City, it's basically January through mid-May. And it is objectively more work than my day job back home when I return for the summer. But I got to tell you, it is a lot more satisfying and, generally speaking, a lot more relaxing, because in Jefferson City, I have the flexibility of setting my own schedule, appointments. A lot of what happens at the Capitol is a lot more unpredictable. Your day is different every day. And even if you might have a 10-hour day or a 12-hour day sprinkled through in that, maybe you might be a little tired at the end of the night, the difference that has versus you start at a certain time, you go to lunch at a certain time, you leave at a certain time, just the separation from that consistent and completely predictable schedule really does a lot to make it a lot more refreshing to go to work every day. And I think people are learning that the more they work from home and do these other types of less traditional employment options, that whether or not they're actually working more hours than they were before, they have a little bit more control over their lives. And I think that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. I completely agree. Thanks so much for joining us on the show this morning. Tony Lovasco, Missouri State Representative. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Tony Lovasco? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. When we come back, he actually did it. Joe Biden did the ice cream meme. It's out of touch. We're out of time, but you're out of my head when I'm not with you. Whoa. I gotta go, Hall & Oates. We'll be back with more Morning Show when we return at wakeupamerica.show.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP4Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning. It's 7:24. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Glad to have you here. That was a great interview with State Representative Tony Lovasco. We were talking about employers complaining about their employees working more than one job. They're calling it overemployment. They're calling it theft. Our listeners over on YouTube this morning, today's YouTube Monday, where we ask all of our listeners to join us on the YouTube account AP4Liberty. Rare Camellia says, that increased productivity isn't necessarily a result of greater effort on the part of the worker. No, more likely a result of tech, etc. Could possibly be. Eva Lovasco says that she's excited to see Brad Polumbo, who's joining us this morning at 8 o'clock to talk about his smackdown on Dr. Phil, his Boomers versus Zoomers segment. It was going viral, and I can't wait to talk to him about it this morning at 8 a.m. Now, Dan Snow weighed in on this topic. Good morning, Dan, and said, if the productivity is there, I should be able to associate with whom I please, and it isn't the business of my employers. People need to be taught to negotiate for privacy. But Eva Lovasco responded and said that she says, I don't think folks value privacy in general enough either. What do you think? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. All right, he did it. Joe Biden actually did it. The ice cream meme. If you don't know what the ice cream meme is, this has been going around the internet for the last couple of years. Joe Biden, of course, loves ice cream. But he actually was approached by a reporter and asked a question about the state of the economy the other day while he was eating ice cream. And, let's play the clip and see what he had to say. Take a listen to our current president of the United States, y'all.
Just one more economic one. Are you concerned about the strength of the dollar right now?
I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar. I'm concerned about the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
Can you explain that?
Yes. Our economy is strong as hell. The internal. Inflation is worldwide. Worse off everywhere else than it is in the United States. So the problem is the lack of economic growth and sound policy in other countries, not so much ours.
The economy's strong as hell, says Joe Biden. Well, I guess we got nothing to worry about. We can just, go back about our business and everybody just enjoy your Monday. And, maybe you don't even have to get a second job or worry about overemployment because the economy is just doing so well. Wood Hippie texted in and said, Biden and George the Animal Steel Fetterman are the reason our forefathers made the 25th Amendment. Yeah. Now, have you checked your 401k lately? Because if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you do not. We've had 7 straight months of 8% plus inflation. A year ago, we were assured by this White House that these rapid price increases and everything from groceries to rental cars to gasoline at the pump, these were merely transitory. Remember when we were told that these were transitory numbers? The overall CPI is 8.2% inflation. That's the official reported inflation number. The core CPI, 6.6%. But gas has gone up 18%. Fuel oil, 58%. Electricity has gone up 15.5%. As we are going into the winter right now, you will be paying higher energy prices this fall into the winter. So if you're like me, you wait as long as you can before you have to turn that heat on because it's going to be an expensive winter for all of us. Winter is coming and it's going to be pricey. Electricity went up 15%. Groceries are up 13%. Meat, poultry, fish, 7.7% on average. Milk is up 15%. Eggs are up 30%. Baby food, when you can find it, 11%. And airline fares, 42%, while our real average hourly earnings are down 3%. Now, so that's the most immediate sticker shock that we've had from Biden inflation, right? It's been to shrink our take-home paychecks, the real take-home paychecks of our of what we're making, and it's in the last 20 months, it's been reported that the rise in consumer prices over wages means that the average family in America has lost nearly $6,000 in purchasing power. That is an enormous hit to many of us in the middle class. This is from, President Joe Biden, who, they call him Lunch Bucket Joe, right? He promised to help boost the incomes of the middle class, but this is effectively a pay cut for all of us, right? So no wonder people are working these 2 jobs, right? And it's only part of this curse of runaway inflation, right? And, here's what we found when the New York Post found when they put together this analysis of our 401ks. Monthly savings have collapsed, falling 83%. But to add insult to injury, even what has already been saved and invested by older Americans over the last several decades has actually been erased from their 401k accounts. This is thanks to the theft of inflation. 401k plans have suffered $2.1 trillion in combined losses this year. The average 401k plan has had more than $135,000 in its account at the start of this year, but the assets have shrunk on average to about $101,000. The average 401k plan is down about $34,000, more than 25% down in less than 1 year. Now, most of the 150 million Americans that have these, with one form or another of retirement savings, have invested the majority of them in stocks, and the major indices are down all the way since Biden came into office. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, shout out St. Louis, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 6%, NASDAQ 18%, and the S&P 500 6%. But it's the little guys that are hurting the most. The average 401k, again, $135,000 on average, down to $101,000. So let's say your average is a little higher, or that your total is a little higher. Okay, you're doing a little better than average financial. Let's say you have a 401k and you had $300,000 set up. So you're not really rich per se, right? Your nest egg losses this year are about $75,000. So there goes your down payment on your retirement condo or your home or Florida and Arizona or whatever. And these numbers don't even take into account losses in other pension and retirement accounts, because most traditional pension funds are absolutely getting flattened by inflation. At the beginning of this year, the pensions in the United States had about $27 trillion in assets. Now it's under 24 trillion. That's about 15% that's been wiped out over the last 2 years worth of gains, nearly $4 trillion. It's a lot of money. Wow. Let's continue to hit it. I want to play this clip of you. Where did I get a clip of you? Did you send it to me? No. I want to play this clip for you of the climate protesters putting Campbell's soup all over a nearly priceless Van Gogh painting. Let's talk about these climate prostitutes when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, Rise and Freedom at 7:37. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Glad to be back. I hope you had a great weekend and you enjoyed a few days off. I certainly did, even though I wasn't supposed to. Sorry about the loss of the Florida special last week. I brought some equipment with me to Florida, and when I got there, it didn't work. It was damaged in transit. But we're back now. Everything's good, and I hope that you enjoy the pictures that I posted from my trip. I got to do some scuba diving with my beautiful wife. We're celebrating our first anniversary this week, actually this coming weekend. I'll be on Tim Pool on Friday, but I'll come back on Saturday so I can make it in time for my anniversary, which will be this Sunday. Happy anniversary to my beautiful wife, Stephanie. All right, let's move on. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 if you want to send a text message into the show. All right, let's head over for some Twitter weirdness. Saw this on Friday when I was on vacation. I was like, oh God, I am so excited to talk about this on Monday. All right. Luke Sacker says, oh, it's too early to see their faces. No, I'm sorry. You're going to have to see their faces if you're tuning in and watching us live or watching the video playback. Yes, climate activists defiled Van Gogh's sunflowers at the National Gallery and glued themselves to the wall. Well, that sounds like about the kind of idiot retardation we would see from climate activists. Let's take a watch. Here they are. They grab the soup. They throw the soup all over this beautiful painting. Security. They pull some super glue out of their bras. And they're putting super glue all over their hands. And now they paint themselves to the wall, and then they say a bunch of stuff in a language that we can't understand. What the hell did Vincent van Gogh do to deserve something like this? This happened at the National Gallery. There have been all kinds of copycat protests, just like this one in recent weeks. I posted a tweet that went viral over the weekend. The Oil Protester Starter Pack, let's take a look at the oil protester starter pack so we can get a little bit of irony to start our morning this morning. Here we go. The oil protester starter pack. Now, what's fascinating about this is that in order to get started as an oil protester, you're going to need some important products. The top most important product that you're going to need this morning is hair dye, right? To dye your hair purple like the lady in the meme, made with oil. There you go. It's going to be a problem. How are you going to dye your hair there without that oil? Second one is the super glue that you need to stick yourself to the wall. Well, that's, ladies, I'm sorry, you're going to need some oil for that one. Guess that super glue is made with oil. The third thing that you're going to need are some shoes. These big red Nike shoes. Wow, down with the corporations, right? Well, your shoes are made with oil, yes. And then, of course, your graphic tee is manufactured with oil. And of course, the iPhone that you use to record your climate activism, made with oil. These are vandals. These are destroyers of our culture. These are the people, these are the Luddites. They want to reduce us all to caveman days. Did anybody else see that meme that was going around that people were sharing? Like that, what was that website? I freaking love science. Right, which is just, it's really, I freaking love socialism. And they posted this meme where they showed a guy talking about how nice it would be to live in a world without advertisements back in the primordial days, not primordial, but that would be like when we were amoebas. But back in the days when, you could just sit around a campfire, you didn't see advertisements, and you ate your food cooked on the fire, and there was no capitalism, right? No capitalism. Never mind the fact that, your wisdom teeth would grow into the back of your head and you died from a gangrenous sore on your foot, but at least there wasn't any capitalism, right? These people want to return us back to an earlier age because, you know what? They can't. As humankind progresses, these people cannot fit in with modern society. It's only ironic that their names are progressive because they are anything but. They are regressives. They want to return to a time when they would not have survived. Let's be honest. If we went back to a time when your survival depended on whether or not you could hunt animals and whether or not you could actually gather enough food to be able to take care of yourself or your family, or when you had to actually build your own shelters and take care of yourself, these people would not survive. These people need progress more than anything, and yet all they yearn for is what they believe are the better days. It's sort of the analog to when right-wingers claim, oh, we need to make America great again and go back to a certain time when we had this idealized notion of the United States and everything was perfect, or at least everything was better than it is today. No, I'm sorry. If you were a black man or woman in the South in the 1950s, you're not living a better life in the 1950s than you are today. Things have actually improved here in the United States and in many places of the world, although not as good. They don't have it as good over there as we do over here. And almost the number one reason why the lifestyles of the American people have improved so much, because we have hair dye, super glue, shoes, graphic tees, and iPhones, is thanks to oils, thanks to the fuels that have allowed us the energy to be able to afford to have people like these climate prostitutes stay alive. Remember, the only reason why so many people can be sustained on this planet, especially idiots like these, the only reason that people like that are able to be alive today is because of the largesse that is provided by free market capitalism. If they got rid of free market capitalism, if their dreams and plans and schemes were actually put into motion, then we would go back to a time when people like them would not survive. They wouldn't be here. So, I guess it's a wash on whether or not we should actually get rid of capitalism or not. What do you think? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. I'm going to play, when we come back, Brad Polumbo's clips of his smackdowns, boomers versus zoomers, his awesome clips from Dr. Phil. He went on the Dr. Phil show. He took on Zoomer socialists and boomer socialists, and God, it was a thing of absolute beauty. The good old days weren't, says Luke Sacker. Absolutely, Luke. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Looks like we've got a lot of great new people joining us. Adam Armstrong this morning joining us over there as well. Glad to have you here. Adam, happy to see you. Chris Morrill as well. All kinds of funny comments over there. We're going to have some commercial breaks when we get back. We're going to play Boomers versus Zoomers, and then Brad Polumbo joins us this morning at 8 a.m. It's going to be a great show. You don't want to miss a minute of the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you very much.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Into the light now.
Good morning. Happy Monday at 7:49. It's time to rise in freedom. Welcome to the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was the Boomer versus Zoomers smackdown. It was played out in the last week as our friend Brad Polumbo went on the Dr. Phil show and handed boomers and zoomers, socialist boomers and zoomers, their ass. It was awesome. And I'm going to play the clips for you now. My friend Brad Polumbo will be joining us this morning at 8 a.m. and we'll talk to him about his boomers versus zoomers smackdown. All right, let's go to his very first one here this morning as I pull up this clip. I'm still a little rusty running the show because I've been out for a few days, so please forgive me as I get everything, because I get kind of back into the swing of things this morning. Here we go. Here's Brad's first calling out of the boomers. It's so delicious.
Baby boomers, silent generation, they lived beyond their means. They wanted all these benefits they weren't willing to pay for. It's up to $250,000 per taxpayer. We will be paying off what you guys enjoyed for the rest of our life. So I'm sorry. I can see why we look at y'all and say, okay, boomer.
Oh my God, Brad Polumbo. So dang good. Oh man, let's give him some of that sweetness. Oh my God. You can see that boomer's face on there. She's got that look where she she really wants to go. Look at that right there. Oh.
How dare you?
How dare you? Oh, it's so good. So good. Give him one of these.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. All right, let's get to the thrust. Let's get to the meat of his argument here, though. He says,
baby boomers, silent generation, they lived beyond their means.
Amen.
All these benefits they weren't willing to pay for. It's up to $250,000 per taxpayer. We will be paying off what you guys enjoyed for the rest of our life. So I'm sorry. I can see why we look at y'all and say, okay, boomer.
Oh, that is some good stuff. Oh, Lord.
Perfect.
Yes, absolutely perfect, Brad Polumbo. Yes, the silent generation, the boomers, they have lived way beyond their means, and they have run up the national debt to $250,000 per person. I think when I first got into politics back in 2008, somebody check me on this one, tell me if I'm wrong. You can text the show 573-319-1586. But I think in 2008, the average per person taxpayer debt was only like $16,000 or something like that. The national debt was at such a point, we were like freaking out about the national debt being in the trillions. Now it's what, $30 trillion, and the average taxpayer owes $250,000 to the national debt. I mean, yeah, and it's all about living beyond their means. It reminds me a little bit of that time when they were doing the bailouts in 2008, and I was at that conservative meeting in D.C., and the conservatives were all like, they wanted the government to bail them out. They wanted their 401ks bailed out. They wanted the stimulus checks to go to Washington, D.C. They wanted the stimulus checks to go to all of their cronies in these big corporations that were sucking us dry. I mean, you have to understand, has a lot of money gone to welfare programs for like poor and middle class people in certain ways here and there? Yes, absolutely. But where has most of this money that they have stolen from us gone? Taxation being theft. Where has this money gone? It's gone to the rich. Most of the taxpayer dollars, the money that is being derived from us. Sorry, I'm looking for the word. It's Monday morning. I still need more coffee here. But most of the money that is being sucked out of us is going to the wealthy. It's going to the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, the military industrial complexes. It's going to the top. Your taxpayer dollars, they tell you it's for the roads. It's not for the friggin' roads. It's not going to the roads at all. It's going to the rich who have cronies, who are the cronies of the government officials that pass our cash out. And it's also going to the politicians, where they take that money and they put it in third world countries and places like Ukraine, and they launder that cash. And I wonder, there's a war in Ukraine, the country where they're laundering all of our politicians' money and all of this aid money that's supposed to go to poor people in these countries. Oh, let's help the poor people in these countries. It reminds me of that quote by Congressman Ron Paul, who said that foreign aid is stealing money from poor people in rich countries and giving it to rich people in poor countries. But now, domestic aid is stealing from poor people in rich countries like the United States and giving it to rich people in the United States. Am I wrong here? Send me a text, 573-319-1586. You can text us again, 573-319-1586. It's great to hear from you. What did communists use to light their homes before? Candles? Someone texted in. Light bulbs. That was a good joke, but the very first time I felt stupid the first time I heard that joke, because I was like, I don't get it, right? I had to think about it, right? It's kind of like, what do you mean? What did they use before? What did they use before they use light bulbs? Oh, that means that they regress, that they can't, they didn't have lights. All right, I'm an idiot. Another listener texted in and says, whoa, leave the Luddites alone. These climate dipshits are not the genetic material we need to advance. No kidding, no kidding. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. We've got another Brad Polumbo clip. Now, this is him taking on the Zoomers. He just did the smackdown on the Boomers. Now we're going to get him doing it on the Zoomers. This is him taking on people of about his generation. Is he millennial or Zoomer? I guess we'll have to ask him when he comes on at 8 a.m. Okay, here we go, Brad. Take him on.
Stereotypes used in comedic stand-up is just simply like not okay anymore. So you can say whatever you want, but you need to also be ready for like the repercussions of what you say.
Okay, you're not free to say whatever you want if you get fired for an off-color joke.
Okay,
How will you feel when it's you who's out of step with the social mores of the
and
day?
then you get the repercussions of what you said.
I think you're still acting like this is something new, though. People have been fired.
Well, I'm not, but two wrongs don't
make a right. The white liberal
People have been
chicks.
fired for things that they've said for forever. But now we're seeing an era where if you're disrespectful or bigoted towards someone, you get fired for that. I don't see that as a bad thing.
But it's a lot more.
See that as a bad thing. God, I have so much to say about this one. Side note: I saw a white liberal chick reading "White Fragility" in the airport yesterday, as we were coming here, and it was just like everything I could. I was just like, oh God. Doing everything I could just to bite my lip and not have to say anything. I was like, please, just Austin, please just don't say anything. Don't say anything. Let's continue here. But I like what Brad Polumbo is saying here. He talks about you're not really, it's not really free speech if you lose your job for an off-color joke. This girl that you're looking at, by the way, if you're watching the show on video opposed to listening to the podcast later, this is the girl who did the famous "Okay Boomer" meme. Anyways, continue on.
If you get
Continue.
fired for an off-color joke.
Okay,
when it's you who's out of step with the social mores.
Okay, and then you get the repercussions of what you said.
I think you're still acting like this is something new, though. People have been fired.
Well, I'm not, but two wrongs don't make a right.
People have been fired for things that they've said for forever. But now we're seeing an era where if you're disrespectful or bigoted towards someone, you get fired for that. I don't see that as a bad thing.
But it's a lot more that's been caught up.
The
than
point
just
is the threshold has really gotten low.
Yes. And I really want to address the idea that what's going on currently with regard to free speech is in any way normal. We checked our latest data on attempts to get professors canceled on campus. It's 770. It involves over 40 tenured professors getting fired. You didn't have these kind of numbers even during McCarthyism. So the idea that this is just business as usual is just wrong.
Good stuff. We got to talk to Brad Polumbo. We got to get him on the show here. He's going to be here in just a couple of minutes. Ew, boy. I got a lot to say about that. But maybe I should just let Brad say it because he said it the best. We'll talk to him when we get back on the Wake Up America show. Don't forget, it's YouTube Monday. Watch us over on YouTube today and comment there. We appreciate it very much. And we'll be back with more Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Dee-Dee's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Dee-Dee made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Dee-Dee really likes it. Dee-Dee said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Artificial Intelligence Bill of Rights intended to shape the way that institutions use this quickly evolving technology to protect consumer data and prevent discrimination, as it's been proven that this technology, specifically facial recognition technology, is not accurate when detecting faces of people of color. And one thing to note that's already been voiced by privacy advocates is that this blueprint did not consider banning AI as a way to prevent harm.
Growth of facial recognition and what it's capable of brings with it a host of privacy and civil liberties issues. Because if you want a sense of just how terrifying this technology could be if it becomes part of everyday life, just watch as a Russian TV presenter demonstrates an app called Find Face.
If you find yourself in a cafe with an attractive girl and you don't have the guts to approach her, no problem. All you need is a smartphone and the application Find Face. Find new friends, take a picture, and wait for the result. Now you're already looking at her profile page.
Burn it all down.
Lawmakers across the political spectrum have been critical of the federal government's use of artificial intelligence, specifically facial recognition technology, for some time now.
50 million cameras, violation of people's First Amendment, Fourth Amendment liberties, due process liberties, all kinds of mistakes. Those mistakes disproportionately impact African Americans, and no due process, no elected officials gave the okay from the states for the federal government, FBI, to use it.
And according to a report from 2021, the Government Accountability Office reports that 20 government agencies, including those not generally associated with law enforcement, like the IRS, the Post Office, NASA, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, have already used this technology. A subsequent but similar report from the GAO details that officials who work within these federal agencies that are using facial recognition technology aren't familiar with which companies they're using to perform the data collection, and they're not sure how often they're doing it. When asked why the Bill of Rights published this week does not consider banning AI as a way to prevent harm, one senior administration official said that was not the point of the blueprint.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:04, and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. All right, everybody's been talking about Brad Polumbo over this weekend. They're sending me text messages saying, did you see Brad Polumbo on Dr. Phil? He killed it. It's the Boomers versus Zoomers segments that he did that are going viral on the internet. So I said, I've got to get Brad on the show first thing Monday morning, and he's here joining us right now. He is the co-founder of based-politics.com. Brad Polumbo joining us on the show this morning. Brad, how are you doing, sir? You beautiful, beautiful man.
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks.
Glad to have you here on the show, Brad. So I played the clips already. So our listeners already got to see you doing the smackdown, and you took on boomers, lefty boomers, and you also took on lefty zoomers. The first clip that we played, though, was you talking about the national debt. And it seemed as if the people that you were speaking to were completely oblivious to the fact that their generations have run us into the ground. Your generation, my generation, into the ground. We've got to pay for it. The only problem was that the Zoomers who were there at their same age, they didn't seem to see any problem with it. But I mean, they're completely unrepentant. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think most boomers are unrepentant. They don't see any hypocrisy between the way that they yell free speech, except for when you burn a flag or want to build a mosque, or when they yell socialism sucks. And I agree with them, but then they want their Social Security, their Medicare, everything else paid for by young people, even though older people have, on average, higher net worths by a lot than younger people. So they don't see a hypocrisy there. I think they were kind of stunned to hear somebody present it to their face, because they have this stereotype, and it's somewhat true, of young people as avocado toast munching, entitled people. But I'm like, all right, but boomers are pretty entitled too. I mean, I get some hate for this, but I want to be clear, like, when we're talking about these generations or these groupings, it doesn't apply to any individual. There are lots of boomers or lots of Gen Z people who this doesn't apply to, but we're just speaking broadly about trends. And I think that is a safe assessment when it comes to the boomers. And they say, well, I didn't vote for that. Okay, but your generation did. And the people in power have been the older generations. The average age of Congress is higher than the average age at my local YMCA. And every time you go in a locker room there, it's just old dudes walking around naked. I mean, I'm telling you, the Congress is even more ancient than that. And yet you're going to say, oh, well, I didn't vote for this. All right, but your generations did. And you have to at least admit that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Brad Polumbo. He is the co-founder of based-politics.com. He went on the Dr. Phil show, and he laid the smackdown on lefty boomers and zoomers. Now, when it comes to the amount of the national debt that has been laid at our feet, I'm a geriatric millennial. And so, I think my generation is going to be the first generation in decades that will actually live below the means of my parents' generation, Brad. And that's something that's deeply concerning to me. It's deeply concerning to my dad, who doesn't want to see, my generation going without. But the fact is that it's the government spending that's the problem. I mean, with $250,000 per head for national debt, I mean, we're never going to be able to pay this national debt off, are we?
No, and in fact, it's actually a ticking time bomb, because it's been growing. I heard you mention earlier in the show how it was so much less back in 2008, and you thought it was a big deal then, right? But it's been growing exponentially, yet it hasn't blown up into a huge problem yet, because the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates at near zero levels artificially for a very long time. But now that inflation is here and out of control, they're raising interest rates. What people don't realize is that the national debt, most of the debt, recalculates its interest rates about every 60 months. So with interest rates approaching eventually to stop inflation, they're going to probably end up north of 5, maybe up to 10%, as we saw, throughout much of American history until very recently. As soon as that happens, give it a couple of years, and then boom, the national debt will explode, and all of a sudden we will have to pay trillions and trillions and trillions every year in federal taxes just to cover the interest payments. It's like we've been running up a credit card payment We've not even been making the minimum, and now the minimum is going to be here, and it's going to exponentially explode, and we're all going to have to pay more taxes and really have some reckoning here. And nobody's prepared for it because they've all just wanted to live beyond their means and stick it to future generations with, forget the economics. It's just immoral. If you want spending now, pay for it now. If you want spending in the future, have them pay for it in the future, but don't cash out today. I compare it to this. What would we think of parents who took out credit cards in their children's name and ran them up and left them to inherit it when they became adults? We would think those are pretty crappy parents. But when our government does that, we just say, oh yeah, okay, I guess that's just how this works. No, it's pretty crappy when they do it too.
Don't blame me. I voted for Ron Paul. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Brad Polumbo, who went on the Dr. Phil show and laid the smackdown on lefty boomers and zoomers. If you want, you can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. Again, the text line is 573-319-1586. If you have a question for Brad, let us know. And then after that clip, we played the clip of you, Brad, talking to, I guess, not the Obama girl, but the OK Boomer girl. The OK Boomer girl who just, this poor girl, somebody needs to teach her how to do her makeup. I saw some of our live stream chatters were making fun of her a little bit earlier, but she wasn't the only one. There was some white liberal chick behind you who's got a lot of guilt. And you guys were talking about cancel culture and specifically that, people need to be canceled for their bigoted opinions. Now, Brad, you might agree that if somebody goes out there on some kind of weird anti-Semitic or homophobic rant or something like that, maybe it's not a good idea if you're an employer to keep that person on. But as Dr. Phil said, the bar just kind of keeps getting lower and lower for why we're firing people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not about that. Like, obviously, most people agree that Harvey Weinstein deserved to be canceled, right? There's some threshold for public behavior. But no one really says that. Cancel culture, we're talking about the minuscule infractions, the microaggressions, the one poorly worded tweet from 15 years ago, these kinds of things. When somebody is canceled or faces backlash or attempted backlash over that, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about this person, this guy works for me and is a Klansman, guess I shouldn't fire. Like, no, obviously, if he's literally an open Nazi, no one's saying that you can't fire that person, not be associated with them. But instead, you're saying, well, they called Caitlyn Jenner Bruce Jenner in 2011 on Twitter before she even transitioned problematic, right? Like, just the extent to which we're digging up tiny things and parsing through. I also felt extremely gaslit in this exchange because she's like, this isn't anything new. And it's like, sure, there are cancellations of a sort, 10, 20 years ago, but anybody telling you that it hasn't exponentially increased with the rise of social media and the amount of mob mentality that platforms like Twitter have enabled is lying through their teeth, or they're just completely in the dark about the reality all around us. Obviously, cancellations have exponentially increased with the spread of social media and the ability to share this information and to record everything and to take the worst 5 seconds of someone's life and make it the top Google result for them into eternity. Obviously, it has changed. So I felt gaslit. What these people really are afraid to say, or they don't want to say out loud, is yes, we support cancel culture because we are the ones who get to decide, because we're the woke people. Well, for now, one day it'll be them on the chopping block, not too far away, and I will just have nothing but delicious enjoyment for their tears. But yeah, I mean, I felt gaslit by these woke TikTokers. They're simultaneously arguing that cancel culture doesn't exist, it's nothing new, and that it's good progress. Those two things can't be true at one time.
If you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Brad Polumbo about his appearance on Dr. Phil, Boomers versus Zoomers. You can text the show 573-319-1586. Tony Allegra came in here to check my numbers. He sent me a text and said that the 2008 U.S. debt was $100K per taxpayer, and that in 1980, it was $12,000 per taxpayer. Tony, thank you very much for that correction on there. Appreciate you for that. But, Brad, I hate to sound like a misogynist here or anything, but why is it that almost exclusively the realm of cancel culture is coming from white liberal females? What is this strange guilt that we get from the fairer sex? Is this just this postmodern feminist movement that has so brainwashed these women into thinking that they need to become, the avatars of social justice? And why is this almost an exclusively female phenomenon? Or do you disagree with me that it is?
I don't think that it's an exclusively female phenomenon. I think the faces of it are oftentimes, woke young women. But that's just, I think, less about cancel culture and more about the woke identity politics in general. That like, a straight white man is like not ever going to be elevated to a position of significance in that movement, or if they are, then that's kind of hypocritical, right? Because it's like, what do they say? They're like, let other voices be heard, or like check yourself, know your privilege, all this stuff. I think that kind of groupthink doesn't really lend itself to having men leading the charge for your movement. I think on TikTok especially, a lot of these is where these Gen Zers have built their claim to fame. There's definitely a lot of female influencers in the liberal space there. There are male ones as well, but why? I don't know. I think what they're really trying to do is, if you're a straight white liberal woman, you're like one step removed from the unthinkables, the straight white men, or even like gay white men are like the new problematic privileged class. They don't count as diversity anymore. But so white women, I think it's like they're afraid they're next, as this, devouring monster that is woke insanity keeps moving closer and closer towards everyone. But if they protest the loudest, if they cancel people the most, it won't come for them. But they're fooling themselves. It absolutely will. Victoria, the TikToker, who's just got almost 1 million TikTok followers, I'm just going to laugh one day when she says something mildly off the cuff or is caught on a hot mic that is just slightly offensive and she doesn't even mean it to, and all of a sudden hashtag Victoria is over party is trending on TikTok and Twitter. I'm going to be sitting there with popcorn, just munching and just saying, oh, but it's nothing new. Oh, but this is just the consequences of your freedom of expression. And I'm just going to have an absolute field day.
Yeah, see, Brad, one of the things that has occurred to me, or that's sort of changed in my views in the last, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years, has been just the amount of tolerance that I have for people who don't necessarily adhere to my ideological worldview 100%. Now, people like you and people like Hannah Cox and John Miltimore, there are many warriors for our cause that are, disruptors that are going out there, they're making a difference. When you go on Dr. Phil and you lay the smackdown on national TV like that, I'm cheering you on more than I cheer on others. But then you have other people out there who don't necessarily adhere to my worldview that I do see somewhat as disruptors, right? And I support them even though they don't necessarily completely share my worldview. And I wonder, you're probably going to disagree with me on this, and maybe it'll be an interesting conversation. I wonder what you've thought about Kanye West's rants lately, because I have to say that some of the stuff he's saying makes him sound crazier than a shithouse rat. And yet, he's acting as a disruptor in many ways. He's making people in power uncomfortable. He's making people that despise people like you and Hannah and myself very uncomfortable. So what's your take on what's been going on with Kanye? His interview on Tucker Carlson, what he said. Does he need to be canceled for what he said?
I don't think he needs to be canceled. I think he needs some mental health treatment. That's pretty clear. And he hasn't been taking it. And that's probably not the best for him or for anyone. I think that, unfortunately, he's crossed the line into some pretty strange anti-Semitism, right? When he says, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews, like, huh? And then he starts talking about how black people are all actually Jewish, so I'm not anti-Semitic. He's lost the plot. And I think that's unfortunate because, to me, whatever force he was serving as a disruptor, and he's made some good points when he speaks out on different things, is then he's kind of tagging it with this cloud of, oh, he's just crazy and anti-Semitic, which I don't want to be tagged with.
Sure.
So I think that's pretty unfortunate.
But we criticize culture all the time. I mean, Jewish culture isn't above reproach, right? I mean, there's criticism enough to go around for any groups. Libertarians, we criticize.
Absolutely. But he's going off into crazy land with it. Like, he's talking about how it's the Jewish Zionists who are making Kim pose on magazines with her butt out, Kim Kardashian. It's like, no, it's not. It's Kim Kardashian and maybe her mom, who's been, selling her out for celebrity for a long time. But it's like, he's getting into these weird conspiratorial...
What are people who are pro-Israel have to do with Kim showing her butt on Vogue magazine? Yeah.
Right. It's just weird. And I think it actually, that kind of thing distracts from any legitimate criticisms you might have of the state of Israel, which I'm certainly no expert in, but I think anti-Semitism is occasionally used kind of how, people on the left use us to shut down conversations or to shut down things. But also anti-Semitism is a thing. And some of what Kanye has been spewing is actually just unhinged anti-Semitism. And that's not productive for the conversation either. I don't want him to be canceled. I think he needs to stay offline for a while and seek some mental health treatment because clearly he's struggling. And I don't love that people are kind of it's human to don't look away from the train wreck. But people are kind of cashing out on clicks, to get him to say crazy stuff on their interview. And it's not what's best for him or anybody, really.
Yeah, good points there. Hey, Brad, have you got any more of those Dr. Phil clips? I've got a little bit of a Nick fit here. I need to see some more Brad Polumbo smackdowns on Dr. Phil. You got some more coming?
I do. I have a couple more clips on the vault. People should subscribe to my YouTube channel, Brad Polumbo, or my TikTok. Also, Brad Polumbo, and I will be dropping them there soon to much anticipation and fanfare. And I just have to say, Austin, I get the impression he's pretty guarded with his politics, but I get the impression that Dr. Phil is low-key based.
Oh, no. Well, I guess we'll have to have a follow-up interview with you, Brad, once you drop those clips. I can't wait to see those. I'm really excited. Follow Brad Polumbo on TikTok and on YouTube. Brad, thanks so much. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Very based. You can check out his website at based-politics.com. That's based-politics.com. Brad Polumbo. What did you think? Did you like him? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. And when we get back, we are going to talk about Kanye a little bit more. Is he going cray-cray? Does he need to be on his meds? Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you? No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, it's 8:26. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. It's time to rise in freedom. What's going on over there in the comments section? What is this? Luke Sacker says, who is Dr. Bill? Dr. Bill? Not Dr. Bill. Dr. Phil. Did you text us this morning? You can text in at 573-319-1586. I'm really loving what's happening with Kanye West. I know it's a train wreck. Brad Polumbo says that I should look away. We shouldn't be doing this. He needs help. Well, but I'm in the news business, so I'm going to have to talk about what's going on with Kanye. Let's take a look at his latest video that's got people divided. One of our listeners texted in this morning and said that Kanye's comments are splitting up the Daily Wire between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. Oh boy. Can you send me more, like a clip or maybe something on that? I need to read a little bit more about that. Let's watch Kanye West's comments about Jewish Zionists, the reason why Kim Kardashian puts her butt on the cover of magazines. I stand with yay, says Adam Armstrong. Adam Armstrong says yay. What about you? Let's take a listen to what Kanye has to say and I'll press play. Here we go.
We Jew, so I can't be anti-Semite. Right. First of all, I need my 4 stadiums back. The 78 media outlets that called me abuser when I was trying to get that heroin addict away from my kids that was tattooing my kids' names.
He's talking about Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
They popping up. You know what I'm saying? It's like Trevor Noah, not even from America. Right. He just looked black. Right? Gonna say, yo, Kim, it's gonna get dangerous. So they putting all that he crazy. He's so OJ.
I'm sorry. I almost spit my coffee up all over my setup here, all over my Stream Deck, all over my GoPro, all over my screen here. What did he just say? Hold on here.
Not even from America.
Trevor Noah.
He just looked black. Right?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just make sure. I'm just trying to confirm here. You can be black and not be from America, right? What are you saying there, Kanye? All right, let's continue. I'm glad he shaved, though. He looks better without the weird homeless guy beard. Continue.
Gonna say, yo, Kim, it's gonna get dangerous. So they putting all that he crazy. He's so OJ. Nori just want the family back together. I just want the family back together. Kim is a Christian. On TMZ, I just saw yesterday, they said Pete Davidson and Kim have sex by the fireplace to honor their grandmother.
Cringe.
Jewish Zionists that's about that life, that's telling this Christian woman that has 4 black children to put that out as a message in the media. So when I drive by and I see the Hulu ads and I say the JP Chase Morgan ads, I'm gonna let y'all know right now, the devil is a defeated foe. You can't poison me. And by the way, y'all done already fuck with me so much. Y'all already black mirrored me. You already made everybody think I'm crazy. You already took my family away. You already separated all my friends. I don't got no celebrity friends. Because when I was on TV, on Instagram saying, I don't know where my child is, and the Kardashians kidnapped my daughter in public, and I didn't have the address of my child, none of these niggas that want to say something
Travis
now.
gave you the address, though?
Travis gave me the address.
Right.
But as far as Meek Mills, Puff Daddy, whoever, none of these niggas, all you fake hard niggas, fuck you. Hold on.
Okay.
All you fake hard niggas, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck because you can't shoot nobody anyway. And the reason why you got to talk is because you did a deal, you fucking fed. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got to come at me, because part of the deal for you to be a do all that and get out of jail is that you promise that you're going to go pull my co-car. So y'all niggas shut the fuck up about me. Now let me say it calm. You niggas shut the fuck up about Michael.
Right.
I'm Michael now.
Right,
Every Michael you can think of,
Right.
but mostly Godfather Michael now.
Whoa.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say about that. I think I probably just need to let that lie. I don't know that there's really anything that I can add to that. I think I better go to a commercial break. You all just talk amongst yourselves. When we get back, Barack Obama, of all people, says that leftists are a buzzkill. Oh my God. I'm actually going to agree with Barry O for something first. Yeah, let's bring it back a little bit less. Let's tone down the crazy, tone down the F-bombs. Sorry about that if your kids were listening, but I'm not on the radio, so can drop the F-bombs if we want, right? Right. I'll try and keep them to a minimum. We'll be back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
My name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time. Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning. It's 8:37. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise in freedom. Well, here's somebody that we haven't heard from in quite some time, except for the text messages. He's calling in. He's the Wood Hippie. He's a mid-Missouri native joining us on the line right now. Good morning, Wood Hippie. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm living the dream, folks. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you here, Wood Hippie. Thanks so much for joining us on the show this morning. What did you think about the interviews that we had so far today? And what did you think of Tanya West's comments?
Let's see. Yay. Kanye is he's an interesting person. I think he actually really hit some points right on the head there when he was talking about other celebrities, and especially other black celebrities in relation to him. But I'm not sure that I know who the Jew is that told him to start doing homemade porn. So that's kind of where that goes off for me.
Well, what's funny too is it wasn't just any Jew; it was a Zionist Jew. So it's like he was very specific about that one. You know, it wasn't just any Jew; it was like a pro-Israel Jew who was telling her to do homemade porn.
Yeah, this is a real sub I'm not quite aware of. and I thought your guest Polumbo was good too, walking into the lion's den and dealing with people. He's better than me.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, to go on Dr. Phil like that and to take on the boomers and zoomers to their face. But I mean, the fact is that, you know, the people who are spending us into oblivion, right? Largely the older generations, the boomer generation, the silent generation, whatever you call them, like they have enjoyed the largesse of the taxpayer dollars, but it's people like me, my generation and younger that are going to pay for it. I'm the first generation of people that are going to live underneath the means of our parents, Wood Hippie. It doesn't, I mean, I hate to use this word, but it doesn't feel quite fair.
I think you're spot on. I thought that 20 years ago, and then I've thought under Trump, I thought, man, you know, this thing's kind of working out. And in the last 13 minutes, it seems it's about 18 months, we have driven this glider into the ground. You know, and it's all on purpose. It's money laundering, like you said, to Ukraine, China, everybody, Russia. It's not.
Yeah, for sure. One of our listeners, Andy Opperman, texted in Wood Hippie, and he says that he's not defending the totality of that pile of crazy from Kanye, but he would be pretty damn upset if his kids were brought into Pete Davidson's orbit. Yeah, I can imagine that there's probably a lot of malign forces around Kim Kardashian and people. Kanye is a Christian, and Kanye wants those kids to be raised right. He doesn't want them to be surrounded by Hollywood and all the scumbags that are probably surrounding Kim Kardashian. I can understand why he'd be upset, can't you?
For sure. And he has two things against him. One, he's male, and two, he's a Christian. So you don't get to say anything. That's according to cancel culture. And he was so spot on with the white liberal women, being the loudest voice. They think they won't get canceled. And it's like, you don't understand, when it's your time, that's coming for you,
Oh yeah, absolutely. The minute you make anything that sounds like a racist noise, you're done in the eyes of the left. Doesn't matter if you're a white liberal female. But I kind of like, I don't know if you watch Bill Burr as a comedian, but he made fun of the fact that when the Me Too movement came along, that was one thing. But then when the Black Lives Matter movement started, and they were burning down our cities, the white liberal females put themselves at the head of the line of oppression and like, oh, look at me, I'm so oppressed. And yet for hundreds of thousands of years, the rape and pillaging of the Western white male. Who was it that was behind the throne? What do you think that was the power behind the throne? Who do you think were the benefactors of the largesse?
For him, the white women.
Well, Wood Hippie, I guess I appreciate that you're over here listening to the new show. Have you been enjoying it so far?
I have. I was kind of surprised when the other show ended, in that I tune in on a Monday, and the truth is this: I always loved your show. I cannot stand the 93.9 other Zimmer show. This was Brandon Rocker. Yeah, no, I hated that show. That's why I listened to this show. And I'm telling you, that show's never going to make inroads into Jeff City. I promise you that.
Well, I know it's just two different marketplaces, Wood Hippie, and I appreciate that you listen to the new show. My buddy Brandon Rathett up there is doing his best, but there really are different communities here between Jefferson City and Columbia, and people in Jefferson City despise Columbia. It's just how it is. I mean, it's just how it is. It's, I walked into the middle of a food fight between these two cities and staked my claim in Jefferson City. So I got to say, Jefferson City definitely is better than Columbia, honestly. And I'll tell you, if you don't know anything about mid-Missouri, for those who are listening in around the country, Columbia has turned into, what's that Will Smith movie?
San Francisco. Poop on the street, homeless everywhere.
Yes. It's like, oh, they love it. What is that zombie movie where it's like End of Days with Will Smith? What am I thinking of? What is that movie? God, somebody send me the text 573-319-1586, where it's what me and John, we were walking around in downtown Columbia, and we were like, we thought we were going to get assaulted. There's like homeless people screaming, like for God's sakes, it's dangerous.
A quick story on Columbia. I went downtown to collect some money one time from a client that I was working for. I had nice, crisp 20s, and several of them. I thought, wow, I'll go downtown to a place that I've ate before and haven't been there for a while. I'm down there, by two almost drunk people at 10 o'clock in the morning. They asked for some money. I'm like, yeah, maybe on my way back. And the guy's like, oh, maybe I won't be here. I'm like, dude. Appointment or something. So I go eat. I come back. They ain't getting the big money, So I come back. I get $3. The drunk bitch is sitting there. I give her the $3. Exactly. I give her the $3, and she starts rifling around in the bag. I'm like, what the hell? And she's trying to give me something. I'm walking away from her. I'm walking away from her, and she's like, you don't take this. I'm going to hit you. I turned her and I said, I'll knock the shit out of you. That's Colombia, entitled homeless, you know?
And that's the Wake Up America show, where we are not constrained by the FCC anymore, Wood Hippie, so you can gladly say shit to your heart's content. Wood Hippie, we appreciate your first call into the new show. We hope you'll continue to call in. All right, we'll do it again, Wood Hippie. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate you very much. What do you think of Wood Hippie there? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. All right, so the listeners, I guess, they tuned in and said, I Am Legend. That was the name of the Will Smith movie. God, I couldn't think of it. Colombia is a trash can with some great restaurants. Basically a city designed by raccoons, says Micah McGuire. All right, when we get back, we're going to talk about Barack Obama and his comments about leftists and cancel culture being huge buzzkills. I guess he's been smoking the reefer again. I don't know. We'll see when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
As a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you, Ben.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense a free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, it's 8:49. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. It's time to rise in freedom, for a few more minutes at least. Did you enjoy the show today? If you did, please share it with your friend. Introduce us to somebody who you think might enjoy the show. Thanks so much for joining us over on YouTube today. Today is YouTube Monday. We do a different social network every day in order to try and boost the numbers and to grow that support network over there. And we sincerely appreciate everyone for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow being Tuesday, tomorrow is Tuesdays on Twitch. So join us over on Twitch tomorrow. We'll be super grateful for that. All right, Barack Obama finally says something that I agree with. Can you believe it? Barack Obama said something that I agree with. He said, well, I guess I'll just let him speak for himself. Let's go over to Twitter Weirdness, where we can enjoy our former president of the United States and his point of view on lefty buzzkills. Take a listen to this.
I think we do get into trouble. Look, I used to get into trouble. Whenever, as you know, you guys know well, whenever I got a little too professorial and started when I was behind a podium as opposed to when I was in a crowd.
Lectern.
There were times where I'd get, sound like I was giving a bunch of.
How are you president of the United States? How are you former president of the United States? You don't know the difference between a podium and a lectern. Come on, Obama. Shh.
There were
Obama. What was it we used to say? Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama. Continue.
Times where I'd get. Sound like I was giving a bunch of policy gobbledygook. And that's not how people think about these issues. They think about them in terms of, the life I'm leading day to day.
Correct.
How does politics how is it even relevant to, the things that I care most deeply about? My family, my kids, work that gives me satisfaction. Having fun, not being a buzzkill.
Yes,
right.
That's a lesson for the Democratic
Party. Yeah, and sometimes Democrats are right. It's like, sometimes.
Go on.
People just want to not feel as if they are walking on eggshells.
Yes,
and they want some acknowledgement that life is messy. And that all of us, at any given moment, can, say things the wrong way, make mistakes. Michelle talks about her mother-in-law, or her mother, my mother-in-law, who is a extraordinary woman.
You better say that.
As Michelle points out, she's 86. And sometimes, trying to get the right phraseology when we're talking about issues, Michelle's like, that's like her trying to learn Spanish. It doesn't mean she shouldn't try to learn Spanish, but it means that sometimes she's not going to get the words right. And that's okay, right? And that attitude, I think, of just being a little more real, and a little more grounded is something that I think goes a long way in counteracting what is a systematic the systematic propaganda that I think is being pumped out by Fox News.
Oh, by Fox News. Please, Barbario. Please, by Fox News. Oh, yes, the cancel culture is definitely coming from Fox News. The cancel culture of the left, that's definitely coming from Fox News. I mean, he was so close to making a good point. He was so close. And then you blew it. Boo. God, of the Fox News. Good God. Hilarious, right? Absolutely hilarious. Oh, all right. Well, at least he did like at least somewhat of a good point. All right. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. All right. I debated on whether or not I would show this or talk about this, but my wife Stephanie convinced me to do it because she said, oh, Austin, people like the Wake Up America show because they like the news, they like the chatter of politics, they like the community that you built, but they also like a little bit of your personal life. And for those who know, we took a little trip over the last weekend to the Florida Keys. The very first time my wife Stephanie had ever gone scuba diving. We did our certification test together over the last summer, and we decided we were going to go finally take a trip. We've got a few trips and things that we kind of want to do before we start a family, and one of them was to go on a scuba diving trip, which we did. We went to Key Largo, and I'm going to play this little clip for you. I thought you might think this is interesting. So this is the second day's dive. You can see us going out there on the water, going down. This is me on the left there, and there's Stephanie on the right. And this is kind of like our first descent of the dive of the day. There we are. See, there's Steffi and her pink little flippers. And if you see us grabbing our nose right there like that, that's kind of how you equalize pressure in there. And, I have to say I'm so proud of her because she was scared of water. And she was not a swimmer before this whole process, but it has been for her a great act of courage where she has overcome her fear of water. And here we are. See, now that's our dive master who's saying that's the sign right there for shark. And they're pointing out that there's a nurse shark. So see, there's the fin on there. She's showing the shark. And then she does this little thing that means nurse shark right there. So we just saw a nurse shark, and Stephanie got to swim with sharks. So she's always wanted to swim with dolphins, which we haven't done yet, but she actually got to swim with sharks before she swam with dolphins. There's me on the right. You can see me holding the hose because when you're holding that regulator in your mouth actually gets really tired. It was absolutely beautiful. A lot of people were saying, that the Florida Keys is dead, that there aren't a lot of reefs down there, but there have been a lot of conservation efforts in the last few decades. And a lot of people have actually said that the conservation efforts have really borne fruit. Our buddy Joe, who was with us on the trip, said that the reefs have really improved. Now, here's me getting ready to do a pretty terrible version of a somersault. You can see here I am on the trip. Now, watch this. Now, Steffi doesn't know what I'm doing here. She's like, oh, God, please don't do anything. She's just nervous as all heck. And here I am flailing to get around there to try and do my little somersault, but I got it done. This was just a really beautiful thing for us to be able to do on our anniversary. For her, it was overcoming a big fear. For me, it was fulfilling a lifelong dream. And now I'm ready for the next big adventure. So where do you think we should go next, right? The economy being what it is, it might just be a lot of staycations because Stephanie opened up her 401k yesterday and was just not happy with the state of the economy. Thanks, Joe Biden. Thanks, Obama. Can blame him for that thing. All right, we got to go. It was a great show today. Back a little bit rusty as I get used to things again. I appreciate you sticking around with us and watching the Wake Up America show. If you like the show and you want to support the show, you can do so at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Yeah, we saw Barracuda as well. Abe Canabe. Barracuda. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Appreciate you all very much. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes, As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average American. Flip City Magazine was created for display proudly on your coffee table. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at Flip.
I would remind it's better to settle these matters in the court. Right.
The most